I just got the brand new Fujifilm X100VI. Wow. Because I wanted to know what all the hype was about. Let's go on a journey together to find out, is this camera usable or is it more just for fun? My normal go-to cameras are the Sony FX3 if I just need something light and quick, maybe throw it on a gimbal, or the Sony FX6 if I want to just really fully rig it out, have something professional for commercial shoots and that sort of thing. These two cameras together are really the dream team, full frame, and they match perfectly. So where does the new Fujifilm come in the lineup for me? So I'm gonna take you on a little ride with me, take out the Super 73 for a quick spin, and we're just gonna see how this camera performs around town. So let's grab a battery. Don't pay attention to how messy everything looks. Let's get this thing on. Okay, we're gonna take a little off-road trail here that I like to do. It's kind of fun. One of my favorite parts about the X100VI is just how small and compact it is. I just have it slung over my shoulder here on a strap. It barely even feels like it's there. And I love that because when I'm doing something like this, you know, riding my bike around, whatever it is, I don't want to be carrying a really big camera rig, especially if I'm just doing something casual, like my Sony FX3, obviously not the Sony FX6. They're just not daily carry cameras really. Right off the bat, I really think that's one of the biggest advantages of this camera, the X100VI, and pretty much all of the Fujifilm X100 lineup is just how compact and small this camera is. It's super thin and lightweight, and it has a fixed lens. So, you know, you might be used to using cameras that have a fully interchangeable lens, and that's usually what I'm using. Like the FX3, you can throw any lens that you want on there, but this, it's a fixed 23mm lens, which on a full frame is an equivalent of a 35mm. So really this emulates a 35mm film camera. I think that's really what they're going for with this camera. Now they do sell lens adapters for this, so you can get a little telephoto lens adapter and a wide angle lens adapter. Both of them are pretty expensive, and they're on back order. So you're gonna be pretty hard pressed to even find those lens adapters to begin with. But honestly, I don't think I'll buy any of those lens adapters because I just love how compact and small this lens is. It's pretty much like a little pancake lens. It doesn't stick out, it's not bulky or heavy, doesn't make it lean forward at all. That's one of the beauties of this. You don't even have to think about, hey, what lens am I gonna shoot with today? You got one, that's it. If you need to get a close-up, you gotta actually physically move in closer. And if you need to get a wide, you got to back up and get your wide. To be honest, I've been shooting with this camera most of the time just in fully automatic. And it's not because I'm lazy, it's because I just want to move fast and not think about it. So I'm actually running with the shutter just in auto. I'm also running with ISO in auto. And then if I need to adjust my exposure, I can just quickly do it with this little dial. So if things are looking too dark like it just was on the bike here, I could just bump it up a couple stops, +2 stops, and everything's brighter and it's looking good. Or if it's too bright, I can go down a few negative stops. So that ease of adjustment is just really nice, so quick. I don't have to think about anything or dial through any menus here in the back. I can just do it all with the dials here. But obviously, if you want to do it manually, you can of course adjust your shutter here, or you can pull up on this knob to adjust your ISO, and then you spin this and you can adjust your ISO. Now, it's worth mentioning that when I am shooting with this camera in fully automatic mode, that's just for photography, because most of the time your shutter speed, ISO, those sort of things don't really matter when you're doing photography. You just want it to be exposed properly. Of course, when you're shooting video, you've got to follow some rules. Like for me, it's having it in 24 frames per second and that 1/48 shutter speed. So when I'm shooting video with this, yes, I'm doing things a little bit more manually and actually setting things so they don't change on me, like white balance. But if I'm just doing photography, I've got white balance on auto as well. And sorry if I'm squinting so much. I didn't want to wear glasses this entire video, but it's just bright out here. Man, look at these beautiful clouds right now. Okay, let's see if we can find some more cool spots to just snap a couple photos. I don't know what it is, but it just feels right to take pictures of like old abandoned stuff with a Fuji camera. I don't know if it's because it feels like it should be shot on film or what, but there's just something cool and nostalgic about it for me. And of course, it's starting to rain a little bit. We saw the clouds earlier. I guess the rain clouds are kind of gray and dark, so I don't know, we might have to finish this little photo walk later if it starts to rain. We'll see. I don't think this camera's weather sealed. I need to look it up, but I'm almost positive. Okay, the raindrops are starting to get a little bit bigger. I definitely don't want to ruin this brand new camera. You'll see, we'll come back in a part 2 here in just a sec. Okay, it's the next day now. The rain did unfortunately shut us down. It almost never rains in Arizona, so that was just super random, but let's get back out there. Looks like there's a nice little spot over here. We can chat a little more about the camera. I don't know about you, but I just love cool little old train bridges like this. Now, this might be controversial, but I've been shooting in all JPEGs with this camera because I think that's the kind of camera that this really leans to. You can, of course, shoot in RAW if you want to do a ton of, editing, post-production on this. For me, I think the beauty of something like this Fujifilm camera is just how quickly you can work with it. Shoot and then, right away go and post on social media. Not going to get into how to do that with this, but there is Bluetooth and an app, and you can just wirelessly transmit them to your phone so you can post on Instagram, post those bangers or whatever people are calling them these days. Oh man, that felt cringe. You can shoot both JPEG and RAW combined, so maybe you want the images really quick, but later on you might want to go and edit them up even more. You can definitely do that if you want to. Now that brings us to another important topic with this camera, and that is the film simulations. I think that's one of the things that makes Fujifilms so popular right now, is the fact that they're trying to emulate that old film look. Okay, why don't I just show you what the film simulations they have. So you have standard, vivid, so great for landscapes, soft, classic chrome, just a ton of different options. Of course, classic negative, and then Eterna Cinema, which I think is really the best option if you want something flat and you want to color grade it for video. So really I'd be using that for video, and that's what I was using when I was shooting on the Fujifilm X-T4. And then of course you have bleach bypass and a couple of your monochrome features and sepia, which everyone might have their opinions about. Now that brings me to another thing that I love about this camera besides the film simulations is the grain effect. Now some people may hate this, some people may love it, but I like to put on a strong grain effect. And you can also change the size of it to be either small or large grain. And I have mine on strong and large, and I just think it gives you a cool look. And I really like that. That heavy grain look is probably an acquired taste. You're not gonna wanna use it all of the time, especially if you want your images to just look really sharp and clean. You can always add the grain later on in post-production, but for me, again, this is all about just moving really quickly and having a good looking image right out of the camera. Let's keep on moving, see what else we can find. It's worth mentioning that in this video about the Fujifilm X100VI, I'm only gonna be talking about the photography aspects for the most part. I will make another one that focuses on video because that's usually what I do on this channel, is filmmaking and video content. I have seen coyotes down this road before, so we'll see if we run into any today. I don't know. Usually they just pop out of these little bushes on the left and right. It's kind of freaky. They're just like trudging through and all of a sudden coyote just jumps out. Luckily they're super scared of humans. This is just one of the coolest locations. It's just these old World War II ammo bunkers that have been here for absolutely ever. And man, I hope they never tear them down. Let's talk about a little bit more of the specs. It has a 40 megapixel sensor, and it is crop sensor. I think I mentioned that already. It's APS-C. So you're definitely not getting that full frame look, but the 40 megapixels is awesome. It just leaves a lot of room for you to be able to crop in and just kind of get creative with your framing if you didn't nail it the first time. And since this is a pretty wide lens, that 23 millimeters, you're not always going to be able to get in as close as you want to. So it's nice to have that room to be able to just still crop in, but keep a really good resolution. The FX3 and the FX6, like I was showing in the beginning, are only effectively 12 megapixels and like 10.8 megapixels, I believe. So this definitely has a much higher resolution image. I just put this in the bleach bypass. See what kind of cool stuff we can get. And I forgot to mention, this viewfinder is awesome. You can see that it's actually real glass. In real time, you can actually look through the viewfinder and see your image, but it also has a digital image in there. So it's like a hybrid. So when you hit the play button, see it just went black, and now it'll show you the image that you shot. It's really hard to see as I'm putting it through the phone here. I'll try to maybe do this back in the studio to show you. So something I've really been enjoying playing with this camera is actually aspect ratios. And no, this is nothing new, but you know, if you shoot in 1:1 or 4:3 or 3:4, things just can look a little bit more nostalgic and old school. And I love playing with that. So it kind of forces you to frame things differently. Obviously you could crop it later on to any of those aspect ratios, but when you're forced to shoot that way to start, you do frame your images differently. And I feel like that's been just a lot of fun to play with. Let's go check out the other one now. I have already taken this camera on a lot of different adventures and just had so much fun with it. I'll put a bunch of different images and stuff that I've taken with it. Looks like someone's tried getting into this one. Got these little blockades in front of it so that people don't sneak inside, but looks like someone has knocked it over. Oh, I'm scared to look inside. I swear something was gonna come out of there. Oh, that's terrifying. Okay, let's get out of here. We're quickly losing daylight here, so probably gonna have to wrap this up soon, but I do wanna say a couple more things about this. It does shoot in 6K video and 4K video, so it's actually higher resolution than my Sony FX3 and FX6 when it comes to video, which is pretty insane. I'm gonna do some side-by-side comparison of the actual video quality so we can see how good that 6K actually is. Something I noticed when filming with it in 6K is it actually did overheat pretty quickly, and I was filming indoors. That was a little concerning how quickly it overheated. I switched it back down to 4K and it didn't overheat for the next hour of my shoot. So that was definitely a positive sign. But I'm gonna be making a whole other video about using this camera for video. So if you're not already subscribed, make sure that you subscribe right now so you don't miss that one. And if you have been watching the channel for a while, you probably noticed this video was a little bit different than I normally make, kind of getting up behind the desk, going on a little adventure. I thought it might be fun to kind of mix things up. So let me know in the comments below what you thought of that, and maybe I'll make more if you had a good time watching it. And it was easy to do. Shot it all on my iPhone 14 Pro.